Before having a wife and kids, before he could legally smoke, drink, or even vote, Grant Workman became a witness to the horrors of war.
And decades later, after his death, Workman's daughter shared the World War II veteran's story with a Bluffton author to keep a piece of history preserved out in 21 Country.
He saved everything.
Prisoner of War.
This is his actual writings that he wrote when he was having nightmares.
Long after her father died, Judy Johnson learned of the pain and the suffering he endured during World War II.
Looks like an obsession to me.
Grant Workman illegally enlisted in the Army at just 15 years old.
He never talked about it around me at all.
Decades later, he wrote down every memory he had, collecting every bit of information related to his service.
When Mom handed me the stuff, I was like, why didn't we know about this, my brother and I? Why weren't we told any of this? She never gave me a reason, but it just wasn't discussed.
Johnson pored over every detail numerous times to learn what her father experienced as a young man.
He had all kinds of diseases, the malaria, the beriberi, the whole thing over there. If they got sick and they looked like they were going to die, they would just throw them underneath the barracks.
A prisoner of the Japanese Army in the Philippines for 41 months, malnourished and weighing just 98 pounds, the teen survived the Bataan Death March, but witnessed 10,000 men die in just 5 days. Author Kayleen Reeser has written several books documenting the tales of World War II veterans.
From interviewing vets and talking with their own children, a lot of times the vets came home and never spoke about the war. You have to remember, this was more than 70 years ago that I was asking them to remember.
When Johnson asked Reeser to preserve her father's writings, it became a major part of her latest book, Captured. It was an unusual request for the author, who adapted Workman's story posthumously using the soldier's own accounts.
I got this journal, and of course it was after the war that he wrote the journal, but he remembered a lot, and it was actually like reading a book. I just needed some editing.
8 veterans, including Workman, detailed the events they saw unfold as POWs.
A couple of guys were told to dig a hole for him to be buried in the next day, and he wasn't dead yet. They just believed, tomorrow I'll get rescued, or the next day, or next week I'll get rescued.
With Workman's story now public, Johnson wants to find a way to protect her father's collection in its entirety.
Since I've gotten all this stuff, I've tried to figure out how I could preserve it, how I could pass it along so people knew what went on over there, because his writings are so explicit on some things that happened. It was
pretty raw. It was his own voice, his own words, and to me it's like a treasure.
Quite a project there, isn't it? Workman was also from Bluffton. In Reeser's book, Captured, another local soldier mentioned includes Jack Hembrecht of a former Jack and Johnny's Tavern over on Wells Street. For more information on this story and Reeser's work, you can head to our website, WPTA21.com.